Support the Amigos podcast on Patreon or PayPal and receive cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hello everyone, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about escape from Colditz. Aaron, have you ever escaped from anywhere?
Not really. Nothing like that, that's for sure. Although I will say I leave prisons all the time, but the security is a little bit easier when you've got the pass, you know what I mean?
Hey, you've never been somewhere where you just felt like you had to get out and you just left?
Oh yeah. Hour 22 Amigathon comes to mind.
I used to fantasize about leaving places all the time. You know, like Boy Scout camp, where it was just the worst. And you just wanted to get out of there. You just hoped that a car would just roll up. It didn't matter if it was a stranger. It didn't matter if he had candy. I would have jumped in that van like nothing.
The second day of rain up there, when it's like you're midway through the week or midway through your first week of two. Yes, I agree with you. Having been there myself. Or anytime you're out camping and it's rainy or it's cold, horrible. Or you're on a hike. Who does that? What were we thinking?
It's
they can
funny.
Only trick a kid into that.
I was in Boy Scouts for, close to 10 years, not counting Cub Scouts. And of course, Eagle Scout and all that stuff. And looking back on it, almost no positive memories. Almost no good memories. It's just all misery. Rain and wet and misery. So
What drove you? Because I don't know how many people know this. And of course, Scouts have sort of been taken and rolled to the mud here recently. But Eagle Scout is very prestigious, especially that's not an easy thing to get.
No, it's not.
What drove you to get that? I always meant to ask you.
That's a great question. And I can tell you a definite answer. I wanted to quit. I got up to about life. And I was, 16, 17 years old. And when you're 16 or 17, there's a lot of things you'd rather be doing than going to Boy Scouts with a bunch of kids, because at that point, most of the people that you grew up going to Scouts with have already quit. And I told my parents, I was like, listen, this has been fun, but I think I'm just going to hang it up. I almost got there, but I didn't. And my mom said, like heck, you're going to hang it up. You're going to keep going and you're going to get your Eagle. I said, all right, Mom, I'll do it. So I did it for her, basically. I did it for her, but I'm glad that I did because it opened up a lot of doors for me down the road.
Sure. I bet you when they pinned that on you, that was quite a feeling of accomplishment you had.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get there's a big ceremony that's just for you. And at that time, the Troop 36, which was my troop, had only had, in its 100-year history, it probably had maybe 25, 30 Eagle Scouts and, thousands and thousands of boys that go through the program. So, so I was glad I did it. And it is something that I'm proud of because it's something that I wanted to quit and I stuck through it.
Scouts is a funny thing, Bode. Like I said, they've gotten hammered and with good reason over the past couple of years. But really, your Scout experience was dictated by, they were all different. All the troops were different. You had different people running it. They had different ways of doing stuff. They were all under an umbrella. And so sometimes you got a troop that was a dud. And sometimes you had some real experienced guys that made it a lot of fun for you. I was in Scouts for a long time up until I ended up tapping out like second class or whatever it is. The one after Tenderfoot's when I gave up. All the years of Cub Scouts and Wolf Scouts and Webelos, all stuff. I used to have a blast doing that stuff. It makes me sad that whole thing has sort of gone away. And we went to take Luke to join Scouts. It's been 3 or 4 years ago, and we went to like 2 meetings, and it was just so chaotic and horrible. Just never went back. And it made me sad, but
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of it is finding the right troop.
Yeah.
And these days, I think it's harder to find men that are willing to take on that kind of responsibility.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
It was always a risk, but now it's a double risk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For all of the things that landed them in hot water, not saying that, you know, my scout leaders were absolutely like some of the greatest guys that I've ever known, but just the risk of being accused of something, or you know, not even being accused of something, but something going on with you being the leader is tremendous. Tremendous.
You could, you know, like I said, I've mentioned this before, but when we went down the New River in the canoes, you know, it was a scout trip. My dad wasn't there; it was me, scout masters and stuff. And we would tip that canoe over and went down face first down the fall. Mm-hmm. You could go out and get yourself killed.
Yeah,
you know, and that's a. I would not bear the responsibility. I couldn't do it. Yeah, you know, personally, it would be too much for me.
I know, man. I feel the same way. Well, we'll pick this up when we cover Park Patrol for the Amiga. But right now, what we're going to do is we are going to talk a little bit about what's been going on at everythingamiga.com, which is really not a whole lot because there are no site updates this week, Aaron. Instead, we're going to go right to the YouTube channel. Why don't you fill us in on some of our latest videos, man?
Sure, Boat. It's not been a super busy week, but we did put some stuff in action this week, Boat. Let's start off with last Sunday's ARG Presents.
Okay.
You know, we did, you know, Brent comes up with these pieces, and sometimes the listeners come up with it. And this week was Android games, Boat.
Right.
And I thought to myself, this is going to be a dud, you know, because honestly, I've never been real fond of the phone games. Mm-hmm. You know, boy, was I wrong, because this was a great. I mean, we played two awesome games this week. I picked a game which I didn't realize had been out. First of all, it didn't start on the Android. It's been out since 2011.
I think it's 2008.
It's new to me.
Yeah.
It was called Doodle Jump, Boat. Had you ever heard of this one?
It's insane to me that you've never heard of this game, because not only has this been a stalwart, one of the biggest games on mobile of all time, but it also has an arcade game based off it.
Yeah, well, that's what Brent said. Redemption. Listen, that's a shoot. I'd never heard of this game. In fact, if I asked for people to pick some games for me because I was on vacation, and this was what I think Rushi ended up picking. I looked at some of the other ones that got picked; they were all pretty good. But this one, I like this. I mean, there's a reason I guess I liked it, because it's super popular. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a good reason. And then Brent, I got to give the Brent credit again. I hate to do it. This Retro Bowl is the most addictive thing ever put on a phone. And I've been playing the crap out of this. I'm into my 4th season.
Holy cow!
And it's funny. My first season we made the playoffs and lost. Second season, Super Bowl. And then the last couple seasons have been a slow, decrepit ride down the toilet for my poor beleaguered Cowboys. But this game is it's free and it's awesome. It's an awesome game. Even if you don't know American football, it's a lot of fun. And it's they really struck a great harmony between making it simple and making it deep enough to where it's enjoyable. So if you're into that sort of stuff, I would give a listen to the Android Games ARG from last week, and we had a good time on that one, Boat.
Cool.
Now, Boat, why don't you talk about this Amiga Power video that you stuck up here?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, Matthew Smith sent me a copy of the Amiga Power CD. Now, do you recall this Kickstarter at all, Aaron?
Absolutely. In fact, I've talked to Matthew. He was a real nice guy. Gave me. This is like this isn't the first one of these. I don't believe it.
This is the first and the only.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got something else cooking. That's what I'm saying. He's a real good guy, and I did know about this. We actually talked this back when it was up and running.
Right. It was funny because at first we had no idea what it was. Because Amiga Power is the name of a magazine and this is a CD, but it turns out that this is basically an audio love letter to the Amiga Power magazine. So this guy loves this magazine so much that he made a CD full of, he solicited entries for a CD full of Amiga-inspired cover tunes, remixes, if you will. And he complements that with a history of Amiga Power, as well as some interviews with some game developers of the games that the music is from. I was really impressed with this package, and I plan on doing a stream where I actually play this music in the background while I stream the games. I asked Matthew if that would be okay, and he said absolutely. So I look forward to that coming up. And Amiga Power. These are no longer officially available through the Kickstarter, but if you message Matthew either on Twitter or at the link at the bottom of his Kickstarter page. He still has some for sale. So if you are into this thing, just hit him up.
The Kickstarter. As this is the first time I've actually seen you. I mean, watching you flip this, I haven't seen the actual booklet.
Yeah, the booklet is very, very nice. It's got really nice glossy paper. The copy is very good. And like I said, I wasn't expecting to actually hear from the people that wrote the songs themselves. I was expecting to hear from the remixers, but not from the original composers. So really, really cool stuff there.
And I will say, I actually, it's funny when we very first time we heard about this, and Matthew got hold of us. I asked him, I'm like, listen, what is this? Mm-hmm. I remember just thinking, typing, what the heck is this? And he explained, okay, here's what this is. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, great stuff, great guy. The Kickstarter did real well, and I'm very happy for him.
Cool.
Let's move on to, we've got another of our, we've got our Amigathon 2020 mod competition vote kicked up here. Boy, was that a surprise?
Well, I remember the whole time leading up to this thing, you did nothing but talk smack about it. You're like, nobody's going to submit anything. Nobody ever does crap. Our audience never does anything for us. And I was like, listen, man, we're going to get some entries. And guess what? We got a ton of entries, and they all ruled.
See, you turned me heel there. Let's bear in mind, first of all, I wasn't that negative. And secondly...
You weren't positive, that's for sure.
I had seen what happened at Amiga Ireland.
Yeah.
I was gun shy. Let's put it that way. And you weren't exactly like, nope, it'll be a runaway success. But guess what? It was a runaway success. It was awesome. I highly recommend this particular bit of the show. This was great. Man, I love these mods.
Look at me doing that dance. I rule.
Yeah, they were awesome. So check those out when you get a chance. Now, here's something, Boat. This came out of nowhere. It's Ask the Amigos Part 1 for August. We must have answered 4 billion questions that last Saturday when we hooked up. But this was part 1. I had a good time with all the parts. How many we have? We get 3
Yeah,
parts?
There's 3 parts. So for the next 3 Thursdays, check your podcast feed or your YouTube subscriptions, because it was such a long excursion. We split it up into 4 somewhat equal parts, and we answer our regular wide-ranging gamut.
Part of the problem is, Boat, I will go on occasionally. A long-winded old guy response that takes 20 minutes. And also, we have a bad habit of just leaving the subject for some other subject. So, because we basically can't shut up. That's why we're on here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was fun, and we appreciate everybody for asking interesting questions, interesting non-Tiger related questions. I appreciated that. So there you go. Boat, one last item here, since you have a little a preview of it up here. Why don't you go into what you and Neil got up to this week? Yeah,
so this week on our new This Week in Retro podcast, Neil and I talk about the comeback of the luggable form factor, Aaron. Do you remember the luggables?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The SX64. I think, Tandy never had a luggable, did they?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on your definition. So when I think of luggables, there were these old PCs you used to be able to get. Like, I believe Gateway had a couple, and they were big, huge, like large metal blocks with a handle.
Right. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. With the built-in monitor or whatever.
And the SX64, that's another huge one.
Right. So we talk about the rise of the luggable. It's coming back, Aaron. We talk about the cassette tape. And it's crazy comeback in 2020, and just a whole bunch of fun retro stories. If you're at all interested in the week's retro news that is not Amiga related, and you just want a quick 25-30 minute update, check out This Week in Retro. It's now available on every podcatcher, no matter if you use Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. It's all on there. Check it out.
Now we got one more item from the video docket this week. Lest I forget this one, Bode. Mm-hmm. We did an insert disc too, and this one, of course, Bode never tells me what's happening. So me and Bode had a private conversation that turned into this insert disc too. The name of the video is The Analog Pocket and the Future of Retro Gaming, where and this all stems. This is actually full circle. This sort of stems from This Week in Retro for last week's show, where you and Neil talked about the Analog Pocket. And that thing got a lot of press. And we go into I don't know where retro gaming is in my eyes and in Boat's eyes, and I enjoyed that, Boat. Kind of neat.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear us just sort of talk about I hate to use the words the current affairs of the scene, but we'll go with something like that. But that's basically what we talk about.
Absolutely.
I think that's all we've got video-wise, Boat.
Okay. Well, you know what it's time for, Aaron?
I don't know. Oh, God, no.
Amiga News.
Yes, the news.
All right, Aaron. We're going to dive right in. First and foremost, we're going to start with the Robin Hood Amiga Group, the inaugural meeting of the Robin Hood Amiga Group, Aaron. This thing, Ravi put this thing together over there in Nottingham, in England. And check out this logo he's got here. There's the Amiga Boing Ball with a Robin Hood ad on it with the Amiga check mark.
Very clever.
I love that. I love that so much. So basically, Ravi put out an invitation. This was a limited engagement affair because of COVID restrictions. You had to register for your attendance ahead of time, and they limited the amount of people that were there. But it looks like that everybody, once they got over sort of the initial uncomfortability of being together, they had a really good time. Check out some of what was brought, Aaron. There was a Power PPC stainless steel Amiga 4000 with RAM packed to the max. A mini Raspberry Pi Amiga, a Vampire 600, CD32, and even those lovely Meanwell power supplies and an A500 Plus being worked on. So a little bit of everything, you know? A little bit of everything. Ravi has posted some pictures. If you go to 8bitmix.com/rhag, you can check out all of the pictures and read his full rundown of the event. This looks like a really good time. I think that they're going to do it again. From the people, just, you know, they love getting together. They love talking about the Amiga, and I'm glad to see that these local gatherings are getting going again.
Yeah, what can you say about that, Bo? That's sort of what we dream about. I mean, granted, we've got the Taze Valley Computer Club, but it's what is that? It's not like this. Oh, it's not like what Ravi's got going. We've just basically got a gathering of our buddies in your basement to eat pizza. But still, hey, it's great. And you know, it's great that a meeting like that can happen in the midst of this pandemic.
Yeah.
That they and I got to give them credit for taking the proper steps. Very well organized, Boat. And I doubt I'm the only one who wishes that you could have this sort of experience at your own hometown, you know. And so, hey, sometime in the future, when we finally get our international computer club off the ground, at least that may be a nice surrogate until you can get something like this put together.
Right. All right, Aaron. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about Doug's new video, the Amiga 500 Vampire. Is this version 2? Okay, now, Aaron, I know that you watched this thing.
Correct.
Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, it's pretty much what it's what he says it is. Doug installs and then screws around with the Vampire. You know, what a great shot that was. Of course, he does everything you would expect someone to do when they install one of these things.
So let me guess. He opens up an MP3 player, starts playing an MP3. He opens up a couple pictures, and then he kicks that god awful web browser off that's incompatible with everything, and then he grouses about how awesome the Vampire is and how everybody else sucks. Does that sum it up?
I mean, that's a broad generalization of the events. I will say,
because every Vampire video I watch is basically the same thing.
He opens up about. I will say, Doug, being himself, he's not going to open just a browser and a freaking picture. He opens like 50 windows up. And it is impressive, the amount of stuff he's got cooking. Right here, he's talking about he accidentally destroyed the SD card socket.
That looks like something I'd do.
Yeah, that's a real bummer. I know exactly what he did because I've almost done that myself. He got a little car, he got an SD card extender so he can mount that thing. And what it'll do is it'll catch on those pins and it screws them up. But he gets past it. And something else, those things are real hard to change because of the way those mini SD card things are mounted. So I mean, again, I know that one too. But yeah, it looks great. Of course, he hasn't done everything up real nice. One thing about Doug is, like, I got to give the guy credit. He knows his stuff. I mean, he is real sharp and very clever and I mean, it looks good. I mean, listen, what can you say about the? I know
there
you're
it
being
is. That's the shot right there. That's every single
Well,
who would ever use their computer in a way like this? This is impossible to do anything.
You clearly haven't seen my mom use her computer. But the thing about it is this: this thing, the vampire, it does the job. You know. Now he also goes into the effect that goes into the problem that when he got it, he accidentally bricked it. And he has to get a little device to unbrick it. When I think brick, I think something that's dead forever. But really, it's just sort of a semi-brick because it happens all the time.
I did read about that, and I was glad that he got the. I guess it's a USB dongle that you plug in, and you can resurrect it. Yeah.
But I mean, that's something that happens on these. And he actually, at the end of the video, he goes into things that he thinks needs improved, and that obviously you want to not brick your device, and if the possibility exists that you can brick it, you should include whatever you need to not brick to unbrick it. So, right. I mean, I agree with Doug on that. And Doug also, one thing I like about Doug too, he doesn't walk the fine line of something. He basically says like, yeah, for all you people that say the vampire is not a real Amiga, screw you, you're wrong. It is the one true Amiga. He's killed, so he doesn't screw around. He also shows some stuff run like this right here. He was getting ready to show was Diablo, which runs. I think this is like using the retardable graphics and stuff to run some of this stuff. I mean, it's impressive to see an Amiga running this stuff. Sorta. I mean, again, we're talking about something that's an FPGA here, so you can just basically, we're going down that weird road, but he can run it. He runs Amiga stuff on it. It looks good. It was a very good video, very informative. One thing apparently the Vampire still doesn't support AGA. That kind of surprised me, to be honest with you. I haven't followed it. I know that had been something they'd been working on in beta, and I guess they still are.
Well, I mean, it is at that budget price point. You can't expect too much.
Well, I mean, you don't like AGA, so you wouldn't care. And that's sort of what Doug said. He's like, AGA, which I was surprised to hear that part of the video, too. He's like, you don't need it.
He's a fair weather AGA fan.
It's pretty funny. But yeah, I recommend this. I'll recommend all Doug's stuff.
So let me ask you a question. If the Vampire doesn't support AGA, what is this? Like, because this is obviously VGA quality graphics.
You've got, I think this is like the built-in retargetable graphic stuff. Again, you're leaving. Yeah, I mean, at this point, here,
if the Amiga can produce that but not produce AGA, it's not an Amiga. Like, what are you doing? What are we doing here?
Well, again, hey, listen, it plays the stuff on Amiga. Sorta. Again, you're going down that whole road. Well, hey, if you've got the money, honey, and you've got the inclination, I think you could put something together. That's all I'm saying. There you go. But yeah, it's a good video. I learned a lot about as I said, to me, the Vampire's a little bit foreign. It's nice to see what actually placed in the system, how he set it up, how he hooks all the stuff up, what works on it, what doesn't work. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, our final news item of the week is there is a new version of Bobble that is coming out. Now, normally we don't talk about games in development, but sometimes you sort of got to reach down to the bottom of the barrel because it's a slow news week.
Wow.
So this one, and plus, I like Bobble more than I used to. It's still not one of my very favorite games, but I am excited about this version. This comes to us from Indie Retro News, and basically what this guy has done, this is the same guy that did Tiny Galaga. Do you remember that, Aaron, the black and white Galaga game?
Yeah, it was just featured on Pixelgate, and they talked about it extensively. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's interesting.
So what this does is, I watched the video of this play, and it's basically, just a better version of Bubble Bobble. The music is more arcade. It sounds more like the arcade version. He's reworked the channels. There are now more colors than there used to be. There are 32 colors instead of 16. There's a bigger screen height, and it runs at 50 frames per second instead of 25. So basically, it runs twice as smooth as the original. And if I was just looking at this, I would not be able to tell the difference between this and the arcade version. I mean, it really does look that good.
It's interesting because as I recall, the actual Amiga version of this is pretty good.
It is pretty good, and they're taking something that's pretty good and making it even better. So.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, this looks pretty good, man. Good on the guy.
Yeah,
Boaster. Hey, before I'm assuming that's our last news.
That's our last news item, man. So if you want to get to unboxing, why don't you go for it, man?
Let's talk about a couple nice things that have been sent to us. over the past couple of weeks I wanted to get to. Our buddy Simulant, if you may remember his name, he was behind the cool keyboards that were based on the old various computers, Amstrad and whatnot. He's also got this gimmick he sent me here, and I've heard of these. I've never actually had one, Bode. It's the retro Wi-Fi. Basically, it's a Wi-Fi serial device. You can see it right there. And it hooks in. I've got a little gender changer on it. And what this is, and I haven't gotten to play with this extensively, but what it does is it basically lets you use your little Wi-Fi dongle to like modem-y stuff with your classic computer. Looks like a lot of fun. I tried to hook this to of course, you know me, instead of using some of the standard stuff that everyone uses it on, I go right for the Coco. And I had to get a special cord, all the crap that I do. And of course, the Coco then, every time it loads up a terminal program, it goes into a resolution I can't see. So I love it. I got to work on that. But I want to thank him for sending that out. That was awful nice of him. And I plan on putting this thing through its paces. I'll do a video on it when I get a chance. But I wanted to acknowledge that he sent it over. I like the fact his name is like etched in there, 3D printing. I got to get on that bit. We also got a package here from our good buddy. I'm trying to see exactly.
You've got bifocals now. You don't need to do that anymore.
Well, you'd think that, wouldn't you? Our good buddy Jonas O'Brien, Boat. How long have we known the O'Brien?
O'Brien has been with us since the beginning. Since the beginning.
See there on the back, O'Brien's vintage and retro. He's a vintage guy, Boat. And I'm going to try to break into this package here and see what this is. I probably should have brought some sort of cutting device here, but this is the way to do it. Okay, I got a foothold here. Now, I remember him contacting me a while back and saying, "Hey, I'm going to send something," and then I was like, "Okay, great," but I don't remember what it was. To be completely honest with you, so we're going to find out together. All right, and obviously I have not opened this. I think we got a magazine in here and maybe a disc. It's an unbagging. All right, so what we've got here, oh boy. So this is a copy of Amiga Future, Boat, and I believe this is a brand new copy, July-August.
Oh, wow.
Brand new, Boat, of Amiga Future. I like these. I think this is a real good book, Boat. Nice and glossy, full color. And then also, got to have the brochure.
Yeah,
right there.
Absolutely.
Now, do you remember where Jonas's shop is, Boat?
Yeah, he abides in Norway.
Norway. So for all the Norwegians up there, gosh, I'm sure they've heard of him by now because I see him all the time on the net. Now, he also sent us a couple of extra goodies here. Oh, this is nice. He writes, it's a little postcard, Boat. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, the fjords.
Isn't that
Norway's got
nice?
fjords, right?
It says, "Enjoy the magazine. Hope you like it. Cheers." That's very nice of him. I appreciate that. And then he also sent a little bonus goodie here, Boat. A couple little extra goodies here. You've got Afterburner for the Spectrum.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you have that one, Boat.
Yeah.
Afterburner, my
Very
friend.
nice.
And
I like
also,
Afterburner.
Oh, here you go, Boat. For the Amiga, Cannon Fodder Plus.
Plus what?
Awesome. That's awesome. So, hey, we thank you so much, and we love O'Brien's. They literally he's been with us since Jump Street. He's always been super nice to show. We really appreciate it, and I'll definitely give this thing a read.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Jonas. All right, Aaron, it's time to jump right in to prison.
Yeah.
Let's escape from Colditz.
I just got out of here. So, this week's game is called Escape from Colditz. Now, if you're into war history,
if you're into war, like the band,
if you're into war history, you may have heard of Colditz. I'm not saying it was like a huge part of the war, but it's sort of a famous area. Have you heard of the stories of Colditz Castle?
No, before I started to research this, I'd not heard of this before. But upon doing a cursory search online, tons of people are into this.
Yeah, well, I used to watch a lot of History Channel, Boat, back in the day. And so I knew that Colditz Castle was used by the Germans in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes it interesting, of course, this is a castle that is on a rocky outcrop right around a river called the Mulde, or the Mulde, so it was a perfect spot to stick people in at a POW type way, and the people they stuck in here were the people that kept breaking out of other prisons, or people that were real high interest people that they wanted to keep around, keep close to the old bosom. And so if you had broke out of prison a bunch of times, you got sent here. Eventually, they made it for just the British and the Americans, but early on, they had a lot of different nationalities in there. And it's also, if you've ever seen pictures of it, it's a cool-looking prison. I know they've made movies about it, and they've also made shows around it. It's a real neat-looking place. It always struck me as odd that they would put a prison in there. I was doing some research on Colditz, and they keep finding stuff in there. Apparently, it didn't do a great job of keeping people in. There were escapes. And when they finally liberated it, they found that the people in the prison had built a hang glider.
What?
They called it the Colditz Cock.
Wow.
And it was stuck. And people didn't believe it existed, but they took a picture, and one of the guys confirmed that it existed. They, from what I read, they'd actually done shows in the UK where they reconstructed the glider, and it worked.
That's crazy.
But yeah, they also found a place, I think it was the French, had constructed a hidden communications room in the castle. So
was there no supervision at Colditz? Did they just let the prisoners do whatever they wanted? Because that's different than this game.
Well, I mean, the game's sort of like that. I mean, you can go a lot of places, but I mean, if you think about it, it's a huge old castle. And if you've ever been to one of these places, the funny thing about it is they are sort of spacious inside. There's a lot of nooks and crannies. It'd be hard as heck to patrol all of it. It was an interesting choice for a maximum security POW camp, but that's what it was. And so that's where it got its reputation. But plenty of people had a hand at leaving. In fact, I also, when this game opens, at the bottom of the screen, one of the first things it says is, in Colditz, escaping is not a sport. That's what escaping prison camps has ceased to be a sport, it says. So it goes to show you. If you ever watch Hogan's Heroes and stuff, that was taking escaping camps to a ridiculous degree.
Oh,
but, I mean, it did happen, So this game is based on a card game.
No, it's based on a board game.
Well, from what I read, now I saw there have been multiple versions, but from what I read, as Wiki states it, the original game for this that came out in like '73, I think it was a dice and card game.
No, it's a board game. The original version from the '70s, it's still got a board.
The guy that helped make this game was an actual person, or that was in the camp. Did you read that?
No,
yes.
I did not read that.
There was a guy that worked on this thing that actually had been in the prison camp, which I thought was kind of cool. I'll get to find his name here. Anyway, so this was an established game before, not a video game, before they decided to turn it into a game.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we are. Now, this game also appeared on the C64, and of course it's called Escape from Colditz. One disc. It came out in 1990, and it was developed by an outfit called Digital Magic. I had not heard of Digital Magic. Do you remember anything from them?
No, I was wondering if they were a one-and-done operation.
They weren't. They actually did some stuff on the Amiga. And tell me if you've heard any of this stuff. They did Kid Gloves 2, Driving Force, Shockwave, Narcissus, Scorpion, and Sci-Fi. I don't think I've ever heard of any of those.
No, me neither.
The fellows that worked on this, it was coded by a guy named Mike Hassall. The graphics were done by a fellow named John Law. John Law did the graphics, or was partially responsible for the graphics on Desert Strike. So he actually had a pedigree, and also Space Hulk. And then the music was done by Bjorn Lynn. Now, didn't you send me a little anecdote about the tunes in this?
So there's only one tune in this game, and it is and it's a good tune. It sounds like an Amiga intro tune. the guy that wrote it didn't get paid for it, and he didn't even realize it was going in the game until somebody told him about it. So it's our old, how many times have we heard that where somebody got stiffed after producing something for this illustrious computer?
He got no money.
Yeah,
that is a bummer. And I will say the intro theme, and there's occasionally a little tune sprinkled in, like if you watch like the little cut scene at the end, but it isn't like there's like music that's awesome from beginning to end. Let's just put it that way.
Well, then there are. You're exactly right. So there's no in-game music, but whenever something happens, music kicks up for sure.
Right. So what do you do in this game? This is the old This is an isometric view with a twist. All right.
What's the twist?
You don't. The twist is the way they render the halls and stuff. It's kind of weird. They don't render. I guess in going forward, you would have like see-through walls and stuff, but you didn't do that in this. You would see where you could go, and all you could see is the little room you were in. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's not like a continuously scrolling isometric view or anything like that. It
is. I mean, it is continuously scrolling.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, when you play it, you'll go from room to room, and it changes the view from like the hallway you're in to the room you're in, or the staircase you're in. So I found that unusual, and I guess if we think of a game
that seems like every isometric game.
Well, I don't remember ever playing one that did it this way.
Okay,
maybe you could think of one, but I can't remember one. Now what they did in the future would be like they'd have cutaways where you could see through. It'd be sort of a transparency of where you'd been.
Right, but in a game like this, that would take away all of the challenge, because the idea is that you only see the room that you're in and you can't see anything else.
Right. But I think it works. I'm not bagging on it. I'm just saying I don't think I'd seen a game that quite did it like this. I kind of liked it. It was kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. So, you know what it reminds me of? Remember that point and click text adventure that we played? Or not graphical adventure, obviously, because it's point and click. But they rendered the size of the rooms and all the rooms. Some of the rooms were real tiny, and some of the rooms were bigger. Maybe that was Beneath the Steel Sky. I can't remember which one it was.
No, was that the isometric futuristic one?
Yeah.
Where you fly at the beginning, but you fly in from like another country and you land on the roof.
That's sort of what it reminded me of.
So, what do you do in this game? Well, you try to escape the prison. So this game is one of these deals where you're controlling separate characters. Now, you've got a British, French, American, and Polish POW. By the way, in the actual game of this, you actually can pick from 6 different nationalities, but one person always plays the German. So while this is based on the game, it's not like an exact duplicate.
Well, it's not even close. I mean, there's nothing about this game that is the same as the whole strategy part of the game is totally different.
Yeah, that's I had read. There's very little in the realm of like things you could take from one to the other.
When I go into my thoughts on the game, I'll talk more about it. But just know that this game and the board, like if you've played this game, don't think that you can jump right into the board game and vice versa.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I mean, trust me. After playing this game, I'd be scared to death of the board game. So, you can. Now, this has an interesting control method because you actually can pick your different players with the function keys. And so you can switch to them instantly. Now, for example, if you've got a guy that gets stuck in solitary confinement, you can switch to him, but you'll just be in solitary confinement. So there'd be no reason to do that. But you could. You could switch to all characters at any time. Now, this is the part of the look back where I explain how bad I am at this game. And because what you do, the object of this game is to go through the castle and secure the items you need to make your escape.
Right.
And these things can be everything from lockpicks and keys to uniforms and guns. I mean, all the way up and down the line, okay, including stuff like passes and stuff that you've got to have. So you've got to do a lot, even like rocks from the prison yard you've got to get. And so there's a lot of stuff to pick up. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that not every character has access to all the same stuff. And so what you occasionally will have to do, if you're good at this game, and I haven't, is to drop stuff off for one of your other characters so they can pick it up and sort of go to the areas that they've got access to. And what you're eventually trying to do is use all 4 characters to get all 4 of the things, all 4 of the characters set up with the stuff they need to escape.
Right.
And then at the end, you'll actually try to make your escape. Now, this sounds pretty good. The graphics are pretty good in this. Everything runs pretty well. The castle's rendered nicely. I liked it. But the problem I had is what ended up happening for me was I walked around a lot and picked stuff up. I mean, that was a lot of that was that. Was not 100% sure what I was doing. I got some hint sheets. I had to get to print out the keys and stuff for the game. But the game is it's abstract. I mean, really, Bo, what were your initial experiences when you fired this thing up?
Well, I know that this is a well-liked game by many people. I want to say that maybe it was Figgy a long time ago sent me a message, and he's like, you guys really need to play Escape from Colditz. So I knew going in that this game has its fans. I found pretty much the same thing that you did, where I spent the majority of my time, walking around, picking up stuff. Stuff is just littered everywhere. You know, this definitely holds up the Colditz historical accuracy with, like, if you can build a hang glider and nobody can know, because there's lockpicks littered everywhere. All the stuff that you need is just on the floor.
Yeah, keys, they're everywhere.
So I'd pick stuff up, I'd walk around. Inevitably, I would accidentally go into an area where I was not allowed. A guard would come in, take away my things, and put me in solitary. And then I would go to the next guy, and I would repeat the same pattern over and over and over again. I did a tremendous amount of, because I played this game for a while, and I was trying to locate the fun. Because in almost every game that we play, I can put myself in the mindset of, if this, and if I was like this, and if I was doing this, then this would be fun. And I never got to that point in this game. Because to me, what this game is it is just, you're memorizing all of the locations, you're memorizing where the pickups are, and where you can leave stuff. So you can always leave stuff in the chapel, because no guards ever go there, okay? And then you outfit your guys, and then you get out of there. And I don't know where the fun is in that, other than you read the novel that comes with this, because this comes with, it's not really a novel. You read, like, the book that explains, like, the history of Colditz and stuff like that, and you sort of put yourself in the mindset of one of these guys. But the landscape is just so dead and lifeless. Like, what really would have improved things, one, is if they didn't leave stuff on the floor, okay? They've populated Colditz with a grand variety of bureaus and desks, closets and things. You should have put the stuff in there and let you search through it, okay? Like, why they didn't do that is a mystery to me, because then it's like you're doing something. You're more than just walking around picking stuff up. That would have made the game seem more realistic. Number two, they should have given you more of an indication of, like, what is an inbounds area and what is an out of bounds area. Like, they tell you things in the bottom of the screen, like what nationalities quarters you're in, but then they tell you things like open access. And to me, that means you can walk around there. And sometimes I could, but sometimes I couldn't. And sometimes I got shot. And I still, to this day, do not understand that. Another thing that they should have done is put in some dialogue in this game. So, for example, you see guards. They're coming and going all the time. They should have put a little bit of dialogue, like put a prompt on the screen or something, just a random thing that says, like, hey, get back to your quarters or stay what you're doing. In this game, it feels so sterile because nobody's talking to each other. There's no sound other than your footsteps, and nothing really happens. It's totally different than The Great Escape. A lot of people compare this game, they say this is like an updated version of The Great Escape. But aside from updated graphics, this is a total downgrade for me. Do you remember the first thing that you do when you play The Great Escape, Aaron? Do you remember the very first thing you do in your room?
I don't.
What the very first thing you could do is you're walking around, you're inspecting things. There's a stove in your room, and you push it aside to reveal a hidden passageway. There is nothing like that in this game. Nothing. Why? Why not put secret passages where you can hide things? Dropping something in the chapel, on the floor? That's no good, man.
I read that you can pick up a spade, and there are some former tunnels that you can find. I never did this.
But there are. And if you watch the playthrough, you see a guy dig through the tunnel. But that's all he does, in Great Escape, do you remember there are different periods of the day? There's free time, there's exercise time, all that stuff. It's almost like school days, you know? In this, every once in a while, and again, there's a clock here, but it's not really, time moves so slowly that I'd never figured out how it worked, but there will be a cutscene, not really a cutscene, but a screen will come up and says, you know, it's time for exercise, and that's your cue that you can go out to the yard. Well, guess what? I went out to the yard and I started walking around and I got shot, or I got captured. And there's a run button. You can turn on the run button, but all that does is it guarantees you're going to get shot, because if a guard sees you running for any reason, they're going to shoot you. So,
I think in the yard there are only a limited amount of places you're supposed to be able to go.
Right. And I looked at the docks, and the docks were not helpful. You know, I looked at the map, and the map was, I mean, it was okay, but the only way that I can see you being able to make progress in this game is through a tedious process of trial and error. And if that's your bag, then this is your game. But that's not my bag. I hate games where they force you to use trial and error to figure things out, other than making the game to where you feel clever because you figured it out for some other reason.
It's funny, if you watch, I watched a couple of different playthroughs of this, and it's funny to watch them because they crank through this in about 40 minutes. And you can tell these players are skilled players of this game who just know exactly what to get. Because if you're just like an average schmo, you have I mean, listen, almost everything you say everything you say, I agree. I think there could be some joy in this for someone who would like to take the time to find and locate where everything's at, maybe take some notes, and work out a plan that way. I think a very someone that's really into that sort of gameplay, real slow, meticulous, like you said. This is not a game for. There's no action. There's not really what I would even call puzzle solving. Like you said, it's a lot of it's just like trying to figure out where stuff's at and get it. A lot of the challenge of the game is, like, for example, one of the things you can do is you can have your other characters sort of stand guard for you,
right?
And so there's that aspect there where you can have them tell you when there's a guard coming and stuff like that. A lot of the strategies, how can I get past this restricted area? What do I need to get this character to get past this area?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
another thing that I would have liked to have seen is any sort of progression. So in this game, it's binary. It's either you win or you lose, and there's nothing really along the way that encourages you to keep going. What I would have liked to have seen is like, okay, your first mission is to go and unlock this door and find this thing. Okay, and then you do it and you feel good about yourself, even though you might not be able to get out of the prison. You know, there's none of that. There are no save states, which to me is inexcusable. I mean, can you imagine sitting down and playing this whole game from beginning to end without saving?
No, I can't. Well,
I mean, that's insane. It's insane.
I did do that on the Amiga. I don't have any save states, so I had to basically go. I just rolled in.
No, but I mean, you know, there were tons of games at this point. I'm just talking about like the ability to save your game.
Yeah, you know, what is the sad thing about it is, and again, I'm not killing this game because I'm sure there's an audience for it. Okay, but what I will say is, I think you've got the bones of something very good here.
Oh yeah, because the game is beautiful. The game is beautiful.
Tons of well-defined rooms.
Mm-hmm.
The system, which again, I wasn't knocking it earlier, it actually works pretty well. The exploration aspects of it, but you know, even the original Wolfenstein had more interactivity than this does. I mean, at least the guards would say stuff and stuff in that. You know, they could talk. I mean, this has. You're right. There is almost there is a sterile feeling to it, and you don't get the feeling that these are even prisoners. Hardly, or you don't, you know, or that this is a prison camp. It doesn't even feel like a castle, really.
Yeah, it almost feels like you're at camp. You're at camp, and you know, because all the rooms are nice. You know, there's paintings on the walls and things. You've got a fire. We're looking at it right now. There's a fire with stockings hanging up in front of it. Now, some of these might be restricted areas, but still, even your quarters are. I mean, they're pretty nice. It feels like you're at a you know, a summer camp. Or, you know, a resort camp, except for the people that are guarding it can shoot you without warning.
Yeah, and I will say I found that if I didn't run from the guards, and when they came up to me, I didn't do anything. They would normally just lock you away and put that guy in solitary.
Right.
But which that should probably mean something to someone that's real good at the game. But for someone who doesn't know what's going on, I was just like, I'll switch to another guy. You know. I amassed quite a bit of stuff that I would pile up. You know, again, you'll have there'll be a signal where it's time to have exercise in the yard. There's a signal where you have to have all your men assembled in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, occasionally that'll happen. You have to have it. You know, I guess like it's bedtime or whatever. But I mean, and I know I've seen some films on this place, and you can always assume, and some stuff on documentary stuff, but. Surely the rules weren't this lax where you could just walk around. I mean, it was for like officers and for high risk people. But so I mean, they gave these guys a certain amount of generosity as far as POW camps go, but it was still a POW camp. You know, after all, this does not feel like a POW camp. It does. You nailed it. It does not capture the feeling that you're incarcerated in this awesome castle. You know, I would have liked to have seen some cutaways or something where you could say like, another day at Colditz. I can't wait to escape.
Yeah, something like Wings. That would be
something. Yeah, I mean, listen, I know you don't like the cinema that much, but just a little touch of the dramatic would go a long way in this.
Another thing I would have liked to have seen is a little bit more stealth involved in your movements, because if you watch the way these guards operate, they are on a mission, and if you stand in their way, they don't get out of your. And basically, you can just block the guard forever. You know, he will just stand there, and they have set paths that they go. I would have liked to have seen some stealth, where if you've got a guard, coming, or if you watch him go by, being able to sneak around the guards in some way. I know that like you can go into your room, and the guard won't follow you into your room. And you can evade the guards that way. But part of the fun of a game like this could be that like you're watching a guard and he's making the rounds, in a room or something, and basically, avoiding his line of sight, sneaking behind him and grabbing something and getting out of there. I mean, that would be something that would be easy to implement that would give you more variety to the action.
I want to also mention, now I just feel like we're nitpicking, but I'm going to bring this up. You've got this nice engine here. Why do I have to use the keyboard to pick stuff up? I mean, can I not just, what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean,
what is that?
That is.
I know you have to use the keyboard to switch between guys, but I mean, I got a joystick here. There's no way I can, do this with the stick somehow. I mean, other games have pulled it off.
Well, what you've got to remember is that it's like, okay, you've got to figure out what are you going to be using the stick for, or I'm sorry, the button for. So the button can only be used for one thing at a time. So, if there's no way that you can map everything to the button, like you'd have to take your hands off the joystick to switch between your inventory items. So if you're having to do that for one thing, then having to push up on the keyboard, that didn't bother me that much.
I suppose if you can't, but I mean, if you just held the button down and flipped through your inventory like we've seen in other games, I mean, it would have worked just fine in this. I think of course, I guess you had to use the keyboard anyway, but it just there was so much stuff to pick up. I got irritated having to do it over and over. It got old. I would have liked those controls to have been tweaked a little bit, but then what are you gonna do?
If they would have been able to incorporate even a rudimentary in-game map that showed you the location of all your guys, it would have improved things immeasurably. Because the maps that I found, both the map that comes with the game and the map that someone has drawn that I found on EAB, almost incomprehensible, because this is the Colditz is a multi-level enclosure. And I would look back and forth, and I would think I knew where I was, but then I would exit a door, and it wouldn't make sense. I would have loved to have seen, press M on the keyboard, and it could have been the blockiest thing ever, the lowest res thing that you've ever seen. But at least I would have been able to conceptualize where each of my guys were, and how we could meet up and where we could go.
Yeah, because the view all POWs now is worthless.
No,
it just shows you a close-up of them and wherever they're at.
It's such a waste.
And the thing is, a castle like this, these guys would know the castle inside and out, so it wouldn't affect gameplay to at least give you some way to get around.
Right.
Now eventually I had a pretty good idea how to get around the basic areas, but I mean, it did get. It would be nice to know where everybody's at. It would be nice to know where you're at and where you need to go. But I mean, we've how many times have we complained about that on here? A million times about not having a map. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, it sounds like we're killing this thing. It's just, I guess it's a combination of not necessarily being my bag, but I mean, I could have got into this if it was just more fun. I'm like
this game has everything but fun. It's beautiful. The animation is good. The drawings of the grounds are great. The drawings of the castle, the rooms, and everything. It's got everything, but it's something that gives me the inclination to want to play it again.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Of course, I would have liked to have even some. What else would have made this game nice would be some sort of some dramatic music that would happen at specific times, like the Lucasfilms guys did so well in their games, LucasArts, or the Cinemaware guys did. Anything just to make it more interesting. I would like to build. There's got to be plenty of other. I mean, you never really see a bunch of other prisoners. I'd like to be able to go talk to other people. Get some.
Again, that's something that I think that The Great Escape did really well, at least from my memory. And it's funny because right now I'm reading this book called Notes from a Dead House by Dostoevsky, a Russian guy, and he spent 4 years in a Siberian prison camp. And so as I was playing this, I was thinking about that novel at the same time. And one of the greatest thing about that novel is that he describes all the rest of the prisoners and what they do and all. And it would have been great if you could see other prisoners sort of going about their business. Again, you don't have to give them dialogue trees or anything. Just give them 1 or 2 quips that they say as they're going by. It would make you feel like you were part of this community. And maybe, after you bust out, part of the backstory could be, and then he came back in and he got old Buster out too, or whatever.
Yeah, and you're giving away a great opportunity because they know a lot of the people that were in this camp, and so you could literally you don't have to necessarily name them exactly the same, but you could put their stories in to a certain extent. Who are you? How did you get captured? What were you doing? It doesn't have to be like you said. It doesn't have to be a ton, but that little bit of text goes a long way. Or like maybe occasionally after you have to go to bed. The next day I'll say like, another a prisoner from an Austrian pilot just arrived or whatever, something like that, or maybe even prisoners that actively work against you, or don't, or something like that. I mean, there's plenty of we've all seen the films. So there's a million things you could have done.
Right.
I mean, this just seems like they put together something that's sort of like a game, and then they were done with it. So that's just me now. Looking at the reviews on this boat, it's you said it was real popular. I didn't know that until you mentioned it. I don't know how popular it was, so I've never heard of it. I don't think I may have heard the name. Lemon give this one a 7.98, that's okay.
Yeah.
Amiga Action gave it an 83. Amiga Format gave it a 79. CU Amiga gave it an 82, and 018 gave it an 84. So these are all Midland, average scores. These are, these are in the low B or high C range, and I would probably concur with those scores. What did we get any action on the Discord on this?
We did. We got a couple. Jason Warnes says baffling, 4 out of 10.
Jason doesn't mess around.
No. And Graham W. Vebke writes, "This is not an easy game by any means, and if you didn't like The Great Escape on the ZX Spectrum, then this won't be your cup of tea either. It is very closely based on the tabletop game of the same name, and I think it has been reproduced well. You control 4 prisoners of war in Colditz Castle using F1 to F4 keys to switch between them. All 4 need to work together to find items and keys, use disguises, spend time in solitary, and follow routines, all to escape. The isometric view works well, but at times it's hard to spot items, and the sound effects aren't anything special, but they work. What this game does have is tension and replay value, and if you use the maps on Hall of Light, it will help you to navigate this castle. This game even has an open source port on GitHub named Colditz Escape, so check that out if you enjoyed this. Overall, a great game if you really sink some time into it, 8 out of 10. So Graham liked it.
Graham is a very thoughtful guy, and I will say I appreciate that about him. He'll dig into these things, dig deep into them. So,
yeah.
And someone like that, this may be your bag. I mean, you really have to have a lot of attention to detail in this one.
All right. Well, Aaron,
is that all we got there?
That's all we got there. Did you look this thing up on eBay?
I did. Now, you mentioned that this thing had a book, and I didn't see what the name of the book was. Did you catch the name of the book?
I think it's called like The Story of Colditz or something like that. But it's a big, thick book.
I only found one of these on sale right now, and it was in the UK. It was boxed with the novel. Now the box on this, if you've seen the opening screen of this when it comes up, the box looks just like that screen.
This is the only Amiga game because I had to do a double and triple take to make sure that this was right. This is the only Amiga game that I can recall that comes in a wide angle box where the
Yeah,
box is wider than it is tall.
Yeah, it's a double wide. It seems like we did. No, that may have been a Spectre game we did that had a book in it, but this one comes in. It's a wider box.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even look like a video game, does it, Bo?
No, yeah, I kept thinking that I was looking at a picture of the title screen because it looks the same.
Yeah, it looked to me almost like it was the board game.
Right.
I was like, man, because it looks like there's pieces and stuff laid out, but what it's just showing you is all the, all the passes and stuff that you would have printed out.
Exactly.
Anyways, I found one of these with the book, and it looked like it was complete in the box, and they were asking $130 for it. So this one may be a pricier one, and there weren't a lot of examples, so I don't know how big a seller this was. I don't know how well this still the C64. I didn't really look into the C64 version of it. But, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for something, a real in-depth game that you can play on your ECS, OCS, Amiga, and you want to donate your time to it and take lots of copious notes and learn the cast on whatnot, this may be one to look into, but it was just not my cup of tea, Boatster.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, Aaron. Before we, it's funny, we the playthrough just finished as we finished talking about the game. So
yeah, right on cue.
Before we hang things up this week, we need to thank and congratulate all the fine folks that make this podcast happen, including our Twitch subscribers. If you are an Amazon Prime customer, you can subscribe to us on Twitch for free. Or even if you're not, you can subscribe to us on Twitch and have our eternal gratitude. We want to thank Buck Owens, Great Algae, David's Fix, Amiga Bill, Picard 2010, Frodo NL, Dub Project, Ant Jarvis, Macintosh Librarian, Rushi, MSX, Duncan Styles, Old B Sturgeon, Christian Russell, Jigglebox, Creepy Dead Boy, Still Adolescing, Chris Folds, Macross the Black 2018, Go To Go Sub, Lamatsta, Retro Jerry, Mitsuyama, and Darkwing 602. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to us on Twitch. We really appreciate it. Aaron, last week we had a couple people that got the Patreon song correct. Okay? It was Will You Be There by the one and only MJ Michael, the King of Pop. Leif, Kelland, Tregard, and Jugglebox all got it correct. So
your performance last week was an all-time low for the show, bro.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Just horrible. Just absolutely horrible.
Aaron, this one's going to be really obscure. Okay, I happened upon it today, and it was one I hadn't heard in a long time. This is not technically a song. I'm gonna give a hint. This is a TV commercial / jingle. Okay,
and you're gonna get all those names into a TV commercial.
We're gonna find out.
Okay, all right.
Here we go.
Let me brace myself for this.
Got it.
I hate when there's lead in.
Cello Code, Mark Bulland, Olaf Hope, Hermsky, Jonah aka Simulant, Jeremy Jones, Ethan Little, Alien Breeder, Dave Velociraptor, Cowboy Bird Boy, Joel Fuchs, Langdonson, Luke Hudson, John Cook, Bomb the Bass, Roshi, Frodo and El Sol and Science-O-Tech, Major Ken, Mr. Cola, Daniel Williams, Bernard, Lucas, Jerry, Dennington, Zorglub, Commodore, Kid Reflection, Simon Lech, Cap'n Crispy, Kilobytes and Caffeine. Gary had the free lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Loves Terminator, 10-Minute Amiga, Retro Cast, Bernard Quinn, Retro Man Cave, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Leder, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Sean Zoe, Barkbeard, Roland Burke, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie Leaf, Kellan, Alan Bob, Checo, Te, Level Lord, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocha, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, Stefan Sorgon Mortensen, Evan Helen, Blindo 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Foltz, Green Catcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Bebke, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Hucker, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tape from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Humbertstein, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Wands, Pixels at Dawn, and Kjolbjorn Barman.
Very good. What were they advertising? Some sort of mini series or something? That's a long song.
That was the theme from Roots. I don't know if you heard it, but
wow, catchy tune for Roots. Bo, did you see? You got a couple reminders here. Definitely something worth talking about. The high score challenges, Bo. What's going on over there?
Well, let's look it up. I did not pull that up this week, but that is easily done. So the Amigos high score challenge goes on constantly on over on our Discord channel. Paul, aka Hermsky, is running the show, and this month's game is Pac-Mania. Pac-Mania, one of my all-time faves on any platform. Pac-Mania, aside from Pac-Man Championship Edition DX, is my favorite Pac-Man game. I think I'm one of the few that can say that, but I've always liked Pac-Mania. Right now, Barkbit is got a tremendous lead over all else. He has scored over 1 million points on this game, 1,424,480, with Frodo coming in second place. So there is still tons of time. The close date is the 4th of September. So make sure that you get in your scores, and if you are not a member of our Discord community, anybody that subscribes to us on Twitch or supports us on Patreon gets free access. Well, it's not free because you're supporting us, but you get access, and that's what you want. Access.
You know, while you've got the Discord brought up over there, we're also running a simultaneous Spectrum high score as well over there, correct? And is it Bomb Jack this month,
That's
Bo?
right. Bomb Jack is this week's
another
Spectrum,
game I think.
Spectrum High Score Challenge. And right now, Mitsuyama is holding the fort there with a score of 240,100. So regardless if you like the Specky or the Amiga, there is a high score challenge awaiting you on Discord.
Very good. I love it. There's always some sweet action going on over there, Bo.
That's right, man. That's right. All right. Next week, Aaron, we are going to be playing Tiny Little Slug. Okay? So this is New Games Week next week. So we'll have to make this purchase, and I know that this is one that people really love. So we'll see if you can stand up to your harsh scrutiny. I know I'll love it.
You're the. I pity this slug. I hope it's good. I can't wait to try it.
All right, and guys, just a reminder that if you like this show, please leave us a review. Please tell us that you like us or you hate us. Feedback at amigospodcast.com. Whatever you're listening to this on, more and more podcatchers have review buttons. You can rate us or review us, and that's a quick and easy way to bring our podcast to light for more people and keep the spirit of the Amiga going. Aaron, when people think about the spirit of the Amiga, they think of your face. I just want you to know that.
That's right, buddy. I like that. I accept that mantle.
All right, and that's going to do it for this week's Amigos podcast. We will be back next week with Tiny Little Slug. We will see you next time.
Adios.